Hi, my name is Jonas. I guess Jonas. I'm reviewing the album Fading Aeon by the melodic death metal band Fading Aeon. That was released on March 13th, 2026, like a week ago. They asked for reviews on their Instagram page, and I thought, sure, I'll do a little review, why not? So they kindly sent me a copy of the album and a lyric sheet, and I took some time to listen to it repeatedly so I can give an in-depth opinion. I'm not quite familiar with their discography, but I did see them live 2 years ago, and I was really impressed with their energy on stage and the fact that they are a 3-person band who do actually seem to have their stuff together. Their style is not quite modern, but also not quite old school, something in between, I'd say, Ether Realm and Insomnium. And I would also say they are very probably inspired by both of them. Also both of these bands. On Metal Archives, they also have the epic metal genre as a descriptor, and I would say that is accurate, like in the actual old school sense of the word, because the tracks are very long. The shortest track on the album is called Progressive Self-Destruction. It is 7 minutes and 38 seconds. And the longest track is Fall into the Icarian Sea. It is 11 minutes 42 seconds. So with only 5 tracks, the album has a runtime of 47 minutes 46 seconds. And the tracks, like the whole album, does demand your attention. It definitely has lots actually of fun moments, and I'd say Patrick, the drummer, is mostly responsible for these. But it also has many solemn and not quite as easily digestible moments. For example, the song The Awakening takes 2 minutes and 38 seconds until it actually starts, as in until like a riff starts or it feels like an actual song, like until the intro is over. And that intro, it has no drums, it has a spoken vocal, and the guitar section feels almost jarring, I would say, which could also be a mixing issue, actually. When the track does get going, it's very good. And as most of the album has lots of interesting and fun sections that do not get played to exhaustion. Generally, I would say the driving force and the most prominent musician is David, the guitarist. Between lots of little licks, very solid rhythmic accompaniment, and interesting, almost kind of weird riffs, he shows that he has spent lots of time figuring out his own unique voice on his instrument. Each song has an incredible solo, placed very well within the broader context of the tracks. They are purposeful, they tell a story, they have melodies. They are not overly shreddy, but they are definitely technically impressive. And to me, it seems that David is the one who wrote most of the songs in general. I can't really say why, it just feels like it, because he has guitar parts for every section of every song. So I just assume that he's the one who wrote them. He strikes a very good balance in between quiet zones where melancholy and, I'd say, almost doom slowly creep in, and other parts which feel more apocalyptic, maybe wrathful. They are faster, more fun. So despite the extremely long running time of the tracks, they do not get boring, they stay interesting. The only downside is that it feels like David ist... Jetzt sage ich schon wieder David. Eigentlich wollte ich den Namen einfach auf Deutsch aussprechen. Ich lasse das jetzt drin. The only downside is that it feels like David can't take a backseat, even once. He's constantly present. And yeah, sometimes I just wish I could hear what Christian who plays bass and sings, can do alone with Patrick. So if you have room for that on the next album, please do. Speaking of Christian, that man does some extremely heavy lifting. Like, he delivers the vocals, mostly in a deep, monstrous growl that sits very well within the musical context. It's not overboard or smothering the rest of the music, but it sounds good. It adds a lot of texture, I would say. Besides the growls, he also does screams and some clean singing, the latter of which I would say is even beautiful. It gives me goosebumps. He's pitch-proof, soulful, giving the track, which is Fall into the Icarian Sea, a dark, melancholic break, which I really enjoy, and which the track really, I wouldn't say it needs it, but it really uplifts the track by a bit. His guturals are also very good, very enjoyable. It gives the music like a more aggressive, a more gritty feel, which, of course, makes sense. It is death metal, even if it is melodic. I do wish that sometimes he would switch it up rhythmically or try something more virtuous with his voice, but he does have his hands full, so to speak, so I get it. Because, did I mention he's also the bassist of the band? If I didn't, he is. And that impressed me a lot when I saw them live. Even if he plays mostly foundational and kind of unexcitingly, he does it well. And that what he does is a necessary contrast to David's constant string of changing guitar parts and licks. Now I've talked about two of the band members. Why not talk about the third one? That's Patrick. I'd say he's like the connecting factor, the balance between Christian's more foundational play and David's virtuosity. Like, he changes up the drum parts fairly frequently. He does a lot of double kick drumming, which I love. It's like one of my favorite parts about metal. And he also plays lots of punk-inspired grooves, which are very fun whenever he gets the chance. Like, he does give Christian needed space whenever he's more frequent with his vocals, and staying mostly down low. Sometimes he also goes completely silent whenever the song demands. But when there's space and when the energy ramps up, Patrick also does, and he goes all out and does lots of fun stuff with the snare drum and with cymbal fills, blast beats, all that good stuff. Going by the liner notes online, he's also the one doing the production, which I find interesting, and I think you can also hear it. Like, the drums are, I think, the best mixed part of the album. They're mixed, I would almost say, perfectly. Like, they're impactful, they have drive, they are aggressive, but they are not a thing which I believe is often a problem in melodic death metal. They are not polished to death. They are human. You can hear the performance. I love it. It's very good. That said, the overall mix, it's adequate. It's fine. It's capturing mostly the spirit of a live performance, which means there's not a lot of effect, not a lot of fancy stuff, bombastic ramps or anything. There are some, but they are mostly in the spirit of songwriting and less in the spirit of spicing up the track or something. I would say there are some problems with the mix, like the guitars feel, I can't quite put my finger on it. They're a bit, maybe it's just too much distortion. They feel oversaturated, like there's too many frequencies in the guitars somehow. Especially in that intro of The Awakening, which I would say is the only part of the album where it feels wrong. And another point is that the bass, it's mostly just there, but it's definitely like down low, barely audible. Of course, it's foundational, but it cannot compete with the guitar, which I find would have been an interesting thing to try out. But for a self-produced album, the quality of the mix is very good, especially the mastering. Like, yeah, nothing else to say about that. I've not covered all of the instruments. There's one more, which is a keyboard or a backing track playing throughout the album. It's pretty much always present, but it's like in the background. I wouldn't call it symphonic. It's mostly just strings or keyboards or some atmospheric stuff. It's airy, spherical. It's mostly to enhance the emotional experience, which it manages to do, I think. There is one moment which almost makes me kind of laugh on The Awakening, where there's only atmosphere, and then Christian's distorted vocals come in and he sounds like a fucking Doctor Who Dalek, which I found very funny. And if you look at the lyrics, that track could actually reference like the War Doctor arc from Series 7. So that's a good segue for lyrics in general. I do not really enjoy them. They are generally very dark, depressive, they feel nihilistic. They talk about the final days of mankind, the end of our world. I guess that is fitting if you remember that their name is Fading Aeon. I just wish they would be a bit more nuanced and less defeatist is, I think, the word. Like, there's some omniscient narrator who I assume is Earth itself, and it says, humans, you did this all yourself, and you created your own end, and your own life will end because of yourself. And I mean, that's true, but it's also, I don't know, kind of one-dimensional. Like, should we just embrace that nothing is to be saved and nothing matters anyway? I don't know. Kind of feels wrong to me. To me, metal is about like keeping on fighting and finding energy in the pain of catharsis, as I have put it in my script. So what I'm saying is, I subjectively can't really identify with the lyrics, but that's fine. Like, I don't have to. The music itself is still fun, even if it's not an album that you can just like listen to every day and in every situation. Like, as background music, I don't think it works because it's not really the parts itself, while like each part next to the other part is cool and the change up is very good. The parts in itself are not really dynamic enough, I believe. They are well crafted and stuff, but you have to listen actively to the whole thing to appreciate it, I believe. So you're gonna need time and space and the right space of mind, is that what you call it, to enjoy this album. But if you have that, and if you have the time, and if you are somebody who sets aside time to listen to music, this album will be a great experience for you, and I do recommend it.